Good morning. This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene. And today we're talking about bringing your RPG character to life. Now, mostly this is for people who haven't played before, but also for you old guys out there that play all the time and have all kinds of ideas about how to bring your RPG character to life. Maybe we'll give you a different one.
a different perspective.
Or
maybe.
reinforce what you already do.
Right. Well, it's funny because role playing games have been around for a while, and I remember we've talked about people who say that role playing Dungeons and Dragons, for example, the one of the first role playing games, if not the first. Remember what's his name said that, I forget what his name was, but said that Dungeons and Dragons wasn't a role playing game. Now I'm not here to debate that at all, but what it does raise
It's
the
John
question.
Wick.
Yes, you're right. It was John Wick. What it does do is kind of raises the question of what is role playing and why does he say that? And so I remember a long time ago I was running the space opera game, going to different conventions and stuff. We came across this couple. She started playing with us for a little while, and she said that we didn't role play. I'm like, whoa, what's that mean? And so she was basically saying that we didn't really get into our characters and talk in characters' voice, so we didn't have characters that were different from us. We were just kind of playing a facet of ourselves, and I thought that was kind of wrong at the time. But now that it's been a long time since that happened, I'm thinking she was probably right.
Sorry. Now I know.
Yeah, you remember. So I think it is difficult to not play yourself when you're role playing a game. Actors, when they get into a role, they always ask that famous over the top question,
which is the first question you should always ask yourself when you're creating a character. Why am I doing this?
Well, there's the other one.
What is my motivation?
Yes, that one. That one is like, it's almost like a cliche and a joke in Hollywood and stuff like that. When they come across this method actor that what is my motivation? And so I think in role playing games there is a little bit of that. What is your character all about?
So there's two different theories, and these are just theories from people that I know. One of them is you decide what you want to be, and you roll up your character. Then you put all your stats where you want them because that's what you do.
Oh, okay.
Right. And then there's the other theory is you roll your stats first, and then you decide what you want to be.
Right.
And I didn't really think about that, but recently we played a game, a Call of Cthulhu game with our friend Shannon, and he says you always roll the stats first because it determines what kind of character you're going to create.
It sort of dictates what kind of character you're going to make.
Because in Call of Cthulhu, some of them, I guess, you have to actually have certain stats to be certain things. No? Or you only get a certain amount of points to build stuff with.
Right.
That way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you really want to be a professor or something and you have no intelligence or education, then it might be harder to be a professor.
You won't be a very good one.
Yes.
Which is, you're right. And I think it's weird that, it's not weird, but I think it's telling that Shannon, when he rolls up at least most characters, and he's really good about role playing character, because like he doesn't play himself, and you could tell that that's not what he's doing. He usually gets a character or makes a character, and it's like he's odd. The character is odd, not
he's
my
not
friend
odd.
Well, he is a little odd, but really, it's like he's not playing himself, and I think he does a really good job at that. And I think a lot of it has to do with when you, especially if you randomly roll your characteristics or attributes, if that's the way it works, that you roll these attributes and the dice dictate what the strengths and the weaknesses of this character is going to be, and that dictates
how you're going to play the character,
how you should play it, or what kind of character is going to be. Because like when I first we're going to run this, we're going to play in this COC game, and because Jolene had never played in one, and I was thinking I wanted to be a police detective. I thought, well, that'd be pretty good, investigating skills.
From his first role, he knew he wasn't going to be a police
yeah,
detective.
so my first role was like a hideous strength roll, right, which was like really low, which caused me to be really small and have negatives for doing anything with combat.
Physically, yeah.
So right off the bat, I go, oh, and then my intelligence and my education were like really super high. So I go, oh, makes sense that he'd be a
Professor.
yeah. And there you go. And so the characteristics, the attributes dictated what the character was going to be, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Now, when you're first playing role-playing games, when you're first role-playing in role-playing games, that's a lot harder to do. Just let the dice dictate what your personality is going to be. But when you've been doing it as long as Saul has, I don't know that I don't know how far each of us can stray away from ourselves play when we were role playing,
Right.
but you can always give it different flavors or ideas that you have. So you have an idea that you're going to play a professor or a journalist, and in your mind's eye, you've either seen something on TV or you're either like going to be Angela Lansbury, right, or you're going to be Magnum PI, different kinds of, if you're going to be a private investigator,
Oh, I
if you're
see.
going to be a cop, you're either going to be Danny Reagan or you're going to be, somebody
Serpico.
else. Yeah, or Columbo, right? So
Oh
you got
yeah.
you have these life ideas or book ideas or TV ideas or movie ideas inside your head about how certain people act and react. And you don't only have to look there, you can just, your uncle spits every time he talks or every time he says an H, he says it funny or something. There's different kinds of things that people do that you can take and make your own to change the character around. So Saul has this idea that you should always give them their own voice, which to me is really hard because that means that you would have to do accents and stuff or just change the way you talk a little bit, which a lot of people that's easy for. Some people can't do that. So you kind of have to just, if you're with people, you can do mannerisms and things like that.
Well, you say that most people, or some people can. I think everybody can do it, right? It's just that I think one of the first roadblocks to role playing the character is losing those inhibitions that you've gained as an adult. Because when you were a kid, I remember playing a kid, and I didn't.
He
I didn't
still is
have.
a kid.
All I had were male friends, so we played cops and robbers and stuff like that. I never played tea time or stuff like that. But children inherently role play all the time. They play pretend is what they called it back then. But in adults, it's really a role playing aspect of what we did when we were children. We have it inherent in us to be able to do that. But as you grow older, people tell you, "Oh, that's silly. You shouldn't be a kid anymore. You shouldn't act silly." And that's one of my greatest inhibitions is I didn't want to look like a fool every time I went to a role playing game convention, right? I didn't play in character. I just talked in a normal voice. And I may have talked in the first person. I'm gonna go over there and do this, or I'm gonna go over there and do that. But I never usually used a character, a voice, or do something strange like that. And I shouldn't say strange. It's just a way of getting into character. So you're right. I think one of the easiest things to do is to do a voice. Now, I'm not asking you to be Patrick Stewart and do a Shakespearean accent. Just change your voice just a little bit. Either talk a little differently. I remember, I forget who was doing it, but they were talking in a stunted manner. And I was like, man, this guy, I thought he had a speech impediment or, that he had a difficulty talking. And it wasn't that. That's just the mannerism that he gave the character. And I thought it was brilliant because then when he started talking, when we took a break at a convention, oh, he talks normal. And then I was like, oh, that's his character that was talking that way. And I thought it was pretty neat. And you could do little things, like just lately we started a 5th edition game or a one shot, whatever you want to call it. And one of our friends is playing a little kid. He's playing.
No, he's not playing a little kid.
Okay, he's playing
a halfling.
Halfling who's pretending to be a little kid.
Who acts like a little,
Yes.
or who he's playing a halfling, so he's really creative anyway. But he has given it this Spanky voice. His
Yes.
name is
Spanky.
Spanky Hamilton.
Yes. So Spanky Hamilton, I think he's young anyway.
And he talks like a little kid.
So he talks like a little kid, right? And at first, I didn't know he could keep it up as long as he did because he kept it up the whole time.
Although
And
the last time we played, he goes,
he kept dropping out.
my neighbor is looking at me, so because he was sitting outside, right, or in his patio area,
Yes, it was
and he
hilarious.
goes, I don't know how long I could I should do this because he's looking at me funny.
Yeah, his neighbor could hear him talking in this strange voice, and I thought that is pretty funny. And my other brother, he was using a voice changer, right?
Which was
But
driving us nuts the first time because we couldn't understand what he was saying.
well, the voice changer was one of those, like the kidnappers
And
use,
that's what it sounded like.
in almost any kidnap movie. It's that weird,
Bring the money to.
right? And it's that weird vocal, and so he was playing the gruffy dwarf, right? And I'm like, and the problem is that it was making me laugh because one, it was
It was
really
making
hard.
everybody laugh.
It was very hard to understand, and second, we're playing online, obviously, and the second one it was making me laugh because it was hilarious because all I kept thinking about was this kidnapper asking for a ransom. Don't involve the police. That thing.
But then when he took off the
Yes.
voice thing, he did
Modulator.
this. He did a very gruffy,
Yeah, he just lowered his pitch and
and then he talked like a grumpy old
little
dwarf.
grumpy. Yeah, not grumpy. But
Yeah, grumpy.
it's potato. So there you go. So when he's talking in that voice, and when Spanky Hamilton's talking, I understand that that's Spanky Hamilton talking, obviously, and that gruff Gardane, I think
Yes.
is his name, the dwarf. I know it's Gardane talking and not my brother. So I mean, and you could do that real easy. I know you may think it's like, oh, I can't talk in a voice, but just like I said, just change the way you talk from your normal voice, whether it's the pitch, it's the how you talk. Don't be as smooth talking as you normally are. Add a little quirk to your voice, and I think it'll go a long way. So one, everybody will know who's talking. Is it the player or the character? And when you do that, everybody knows it's the character talking, and I think that goes a long ways to being a better role player.
And if you are uncomfortable doing that, or you can't, or you're not finding a specific voice for your character, in that particular game, I'm playing a gnome, and she's always happy, and she wants to look nice, and she's with a bunch of very strange big guys, except for the Spanky, and so she's always trying to be bubbly, right?
Yeah, put a positive spin on everything.
So that's the way I do it for that one. The other voices are really cool, and I know the characters and I know the people, so it makes me laugh every time Felipe says something. And when Jim is talking, I have a hard time keeping a straight face because it's just funny, right? And it's pretty cool. So it does add to the flavor of the character. Also, another thing that really, when you're thinking about what your motivation is for your character, there's the idea that there's secrets, there's flaws, there's attachments. Secrets are, you could have a secret from your past, which your parent, well, the typical D&D trope, your parents were killed by orcs and you're out
That's
to
not much of a
revenge all
secret.
of them. But it could be something different, like you're really a princess, or you're really you've run away from your husband, or your different kinds of things like that, like secrets, like someone's chasing you but you don't want to tell anybody, that kind of thing. So that could make you play your character differently, like you're nervous or scared, or you're always looking over your shoulder.
Well, I think that goes along with your motivation, right? It's like, and we're talking about bringing your character to life. So not only do you want to be a better role player, but when you have all these things that your character is, it helps you, the player, play that character. So like she was talking about secrets, and I think you're right. I think if there's something that you don't want the rest of the group to know, and if you're role playing that, you might drop hints of it every once in a while, and that and that just adds to making your character more 3-dimensional instead of this 2-dimensional piece of paper that's sitting in front of you.
And a lot of people do things like give their character a limp, or they, something like that. Like, I'm trying to keep up with you, but I can't.
Right.
Or, this happened to me and I walk funny, or, different kinds of things like that.
Right. And I think, a lot of games now, they do this almost automatically is to flesh out your character. Like, give your character a life goal, right? Why are they around doing whatever they're doing?
And another one is, why are you in this party? Are you attached to somebody here? Meaning, are they your brother, your sister? Do you really like them? Did they save your life? different things, different. Why are you with these people? Like Augustine and I for the 5th edition game, he's this half elf guy, and I'm a good gnome. So how are you going to know each other? So we came up with this story that me and my grandfather met him in the woods, and just because I knew him, I was going to the town where he's a bard, so I was going to go see him and perform. So
Ah,
it's just a small thing, but it gives you a connection to the person.
right.
Whether they're good, bad, or ugly, it doesn't matter, just that you have a connection to somebody in the group.
Yeah, that really does help. I mean, when you have a tie to another player or players in the group, it gives you a reason to be together. Even in Shannon's game of Call of Cthulhu, he wanted us to have a reason for us to be together at the time that this incident happens. He goes, well, one of the things he suggested was be part of a family, be siblings. I instinctively thought of that of a father and or mother and child, but he was thinking siblings. So two of us, well, there's four of us, four players. Each of us doubled up and we became siblings to each other, and it worked out pretty well. I think it was pretty cool. And then of course, one of the siblings, my sibling, was had his eyes on Jolene's character, and then her brother was my student because I was a professor, right? So it was cool, and so there was a reason for these four people to be together in a car driving from vacation or some conference that we all went to. So it was really neat. So it gave us a reason to be together.
And once you're attached to a person, right? Bay was my brother. So, and what's your motivation? Well, you want your brother to succeed at whatever he's doing, right? That's the A motivation. You can have all kinds of different motivations, but it gives you not only a connection to the character, but a reason for playing your character a certain way.
And a reason for staying, right? So it's like Morgan, one of the players, is I guess he's kind of famous in CLC for to abandoning the other players, right? Because he's gonna save his own skin because it's a Call of Cthulhu. He plays a lot of Call of Cthulhu games, so having a reason for him not to scoot at the first sign of trouble uh, made the character not want to leave Jolene behind. So that was a pull for that character not to abandon the group and take off on his own if he had a chance.
It also makes it more, whatever game it is, it gives you a reason to not want the other characters to die, right?
Right. Or not be willing to abandon them to their fate, right? Like if you don't,
You're not going to let your brother, you're going to do something to save your brother,
right,
whatever it is.
correct, or whatever,
Or whatever, you realize your
your secret
professor
love.
is going insane, but you're not sure how to take care of this. Things like that.
I like the idea of pick a flaw, like Jolene talked about a limp, but a flaw could be an emotional flaw or a character flaw, and
And you can bring your real life flaws, like I don't like clowns. So none of my characters are ever going to be comfortable with clowns. It doesn't matter what I'm playing, but that's just a flaw that is inherently going to be in most of my characters. So hopefully there's no clowns in the games because I do kind of freak out when I see them.
yeah, yeah.
So that's a normal flaw. Lots of people have it. And I don't know that it's a flaw. I think it's a preservation instinct myself. But
What's really weird is I never looked at clowns as a kid as the way you do, right? And you're living with me for years and years. Every time I see a clown, I'm like, I remember my sister, Charlie. She was. I go, well, what's the deal with clowns? And she goes, and I think she helped me not like clowns too, because her son was afraid of clowns, and I think years when he was a baby, when he was born, somebody gave him a light up lamp that was where you light up and his face would light up, and he had balloons and the balloons would light up, and it was a typical like a Ronald McDonald carnival or circus clown,
horrible gift to give
right?
to a
And
child.
so I guess at some point when he was old enough to see and stuff, it scared the bejesus out of him, right? So I go, and so and so obviously my nephew doesn't like clowns. I mean, he didn't like anything stuffed like Chuck E. Cheese or stuff like that walking around. I remember he had a party at Chuck E. Cheese, and he was about 8 or 9, and my nephew Adrian, and he just like he did not want be near Chuck E. Cheese. Right, the rat would come out and give you your whatever a hug, and he didn't want to. He was like crying, right? And so I'm like, I was asking my sister, what's the deal with clowns? And she goes, they're grotesque. That the way their face is, and they're red around their face, and once she said that, she ruined clowns for me. I'm like, yeah, they are kind of creepy. And then it doesn't help that there's all these freaking clowns running around killing people in books and in movies. The killer clowns from outer space and it obviously Stephen King. So obviously the other people don't like clowns either.
So that's a flaw,
That's a flaw.
that's a flaw that you can give your character, something like that, right? Or
Yes.
they're scared of spiders or snakes, or they don't like
Right.
horses, or there's all kinds of things.
What was it? We were just watching some movie that lady, that Australian lady, that mystery lady. What's the name?
Miss Fisher.
Miss Fisher, right? And it was funny because she's like this tough, she's kind of like Indiana Jones, right? She not loves, but she can do anything. She flies planes, and she's this adventurous lady. And then, she sees a spider, and it's like the only thing she's ever scared of is a spider. So I think it's pretty neat. Other flaws you can have are, like you said, physical flaws. You can have a limp or anything that makes your character a little bit more three-dimensional.
Well, and
'Cause
it
we all
depends
have
on the
flaws, right?
type of character or the type of game you're playing. If you're playing D&D, if you're a barbarian and you don't wear clothes, you wear like a loincloth and stuff, depending on who you are, right?
They don't have to be Thunder the Barbarian.
I know, I'm just saying. There's inherently, like, if you're playing an elf or whatever, or a dwarf, there are characteristics to these characters, right? That you like. Elves are notoriously beautiful. Dwarves are
Rough and
yeah,
Scottish
yeah,
accents.
different kinds of things, right? So and barbarians are not known for their intelligence, so these are built-in things that you can use in the character. And maybe none of those things are true, but it gives you an idea of how to approach your version of this character when you're playing
Right.
it, because you're going to be playing it for a few hours at the minimum, a few years at the most, and it's probably going to change and adjust. You don't always have to go with like crazy things. Like our friend Steve tends to, in the Shadowrun game, he came up with this character, and she's very weird. And he plays her that way. He plays her like himself most of the time, but then every once in a while, when he wants to really role play, he'll bring out the strangeness
Yes,
of things
yeah.
that she does, right?
Well, it was funny because I didn't know he was playing a female character at first.
Or
For the first couple of sessions, I thought it was pretty funny. I'm like, what? And then when he told me that, I'm like, oh, okay. And it came out kind of weirdly, when he said what he was doing. I'm like, okay. But then it made sense that when he said it was a female character. I think when you add a little a flaw to your character, I think it brings them more to life, right?
yes,
So talents, every person has a talent, I believe, and in real life, and have your character have a talent, something that they're good at, and they know they're good at, and that makes them, whether it's
the lock picker.
the lock picker, the face man, the man, or the lady, or the character that can smooth talk people. I use these in kind of quotations. The door opener, right? The big strong brute, or the sneaky thief that can open any door with pick, or unlock any lock. I don't think you want to. I'm not saying you should be one dimensional. Like this is the only thing they do, but play up the fact that they're good at one thing, or that they have a talent, whatever that may be. It could be something baked into the system. There's some systems that have talent. It's literally called a talent. Some games call them feats, any name. But if you have one of those, or even if you don't, just tell the GM, I think I should be good at this because of whatever reason, my background or whatever. And and I think you play it up every once in a while. Like proud of the fact that you're good at something.
And this is why And for years, I was like, why do I have to make a background story? I don't understand. I didn't understand the reasoning. Now I do, because it gives you motivations for all of the different things you do as your character, right? And the best question is, why are you adventuring? Why are you out of your village? Why aren't you married with kids? Different
Right.
kind. Why are you here with all these weirdos that are like, they pull out their axes and kill things all the time? What is your motivation? What is your why? Once you answer that question, then it makes it a lot easier to do. And you can do things when you're doing your character, like what's their zodiac sign, so you have an idea of how they act and stuff, because people that are born in all the different signs, right? So you can take real life examples of that, right?
That's a good idea. You could just, whether you believe in that stuff or not. I'm not condoning, following the life with astrological symbols, but you could look at these different aspects, like even the Chinese New Year's have animal attributes, and they attribute being born in a certain year, giving you personality traits and stuff, and use that as a model for your character. That'd be pretty cool. Also, you're right. I think when you use the backstory, or when you do a backstory, whether it's a one paragraph or pages, I think when you're writing that up and you're going through that, that very artistic endeavor, the characters comes out. Depending, like I said, depending on how long it is, you can get a lot of you can get a lot of information, or put down a lot of information and use that for your character when you're playing the character. And you're right, normal people, even in a fantasy medieval world, are not going to go out adventuring. It takes a weird quirk of a person to go out and take a huge gamble, because adventuring, in let's say in D&D, is a very violent and very dangerous thing to do. What's his name, Gandalf, or I forget what it is. Going outside your house is a very dangerous thing, right?
Bilbo.
Bilbo, yeah, that's right. So normal people don't do that.
Right.
Even now, normal people don't go out adventuring. Look at Indiana Jones. He most archaeologists were like, "Oh, I'll stay right here in my
Maybe not
university."
archaeologists. They like to dig.
But yeah, but you're right. But they don't go out and fight Nazis and stuff like that.
No, most of them don't do that.
So I think it's a good idea to make a backstory, and it definitely helps you bring your character to life, and then use that when you're actually playing the character, to refer to your own writings and to your own ideas that you had when you filled out the backstory.
I think that we should leave them with one last thought on this.
Well, I have one more thing.
Okay, then I'll tell you my last
Yeah,
thought.
your last thought. So, one thing is, don't always do what's best for your character.
Oh,
So, like,
what do you mean?
for like example, if he has a character flaw, let's say, we used this one before, but let's say he's a klepto. He likes collecting things. He doesn't necessarily steal them for money, and that's not part of what kleptomancy, or whatever it's called, is. Uh, Kleptomancy.
Kleptomania?
Yeah, kleptomania is all about. It's like, I'm not saying that Winona Ryder was a kleptomaniac, but she had money and she was accused of stealing stuff, from some high end store. Now she probably could afford it. That's not the problem, or not. That wasn't the issue. Is that she had this, like, when you steal things, sometimes I don't think I've ever done it, but people get this like excitement, of doing something wrong, the excitement of getting caught,
Not getting caught.
or getting caught, right? And so for whatever reason, people have that character flaw, or that quirk. I don't know what to call it. Let's say you're trying to get information, whatever game it is, whether it's a spy game, it could be a fantasy role playing game, and a couple of you break into somebody's house and you're trying to find information. And I think we use this as an example for something else, but at one point, one of the characters, who has a character flaw, likes collecting things, sees a brooch on the bureau or whatever, and he doesn't care about how expensive it is, or that it's worth anything. He just wants a token that he got into this house, and like a trophy. So he takes it. Now, if you're busting into somebody's house and trying to get information, and don't want to leave a trail behind, the last thing you want to do is steal something valuable, or something that could be valuable, or something that could be important to the person that owns that house or lives there. That's what I'm talking about. Playing your flaws is that you do something that's not necessarily good for
character,
your
or
character
or your group.
or your group. So I think that adds a little bit of like I said, it makes your character more realistic or more three dimensional. I think it's pretty cool.
I agree.
She laughs at me.
My final thought was that you should always, when you're creating your character, and I know we watch a lot of baseball, not now, but
We used
in a
to watch a lot
normal
of
year.
baseball.
And every time a player comes out, they have picked a song, and they play the song.
Their theme
So,
song.
Their theme song, right? They're coming out now, so you know which player it is by the song. So I think that, just like there was a book about these old guys that used to be adventurers and get back together. I forget what it's called. Getting the band. I don't know. I don't remember what it's called, but the line in it is, "I'm trying to get the band back together."
Oh yeah. Kings of the Wild.
That's it. And every time I hear that, I always think it kind of gives you an idea that they were a band, a rock band, right? Not a band of mercenaries. So if you pick a song for your character, whatever song it is, if you're going to be playing somebody that's, a silly song for a silly character, a fighting song for a fighter, or whatever.
Play it in your head when it comes out into the ring.
It just gives you an idea, right? It gives you an idea of what your character is going to be like.
And it kind of puts you in that mind frame, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. That's a pretty good idea. Kind of like a boxer coming out, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Or baseball player. I always think of
Baseball players.
because
Yeah, you know what? I never really realized that. I mean, I did lately, but before I didn't know that they picked a song that they would come out when they introduced to come and bat.
Yeah.
Right. And I thought it was kind of funny, because we live here in the Bay Area. Well, I guess Latin players are all over the place. So like every once in a while, someone will start playing like a real Latin song, right? The Mexican music or whatever, salsa music, and I'm like, and then it's just weird. At first, I thought they just kind of randomly played music, but no, the announcer would have, at one point said, "Oh, he plays this song because of whatever." I'm like, "Oh," and then they go into this talk about how they get to choose the music that they come out to, and I thought it was interesting. You're right, and if you do that in your head, have a song that whenever you're about to sit down.
Or when the game master says roll initiative.
Yeah, there's that too. When the action starts. Yeah, so hopefully this helps you in some way bring your character more to life, make it more three dimensional, make it more real, and I think
that'll help you have more fun.
Yeah, I think it'll make the game more fun. It'll give it more, I don't know,
Flavor.
That sounds good.
This is Gaming Perspectives with
Saul
and Jolene.
and you have a good day.